In 1580, Queen Elizabeth was the largest shareholder in Sir Francis Drake's merchant ship, the Golden Hind. Naturally, the Queen granted Drake's venture legal freedom from liability. After paying Elizabeth her conspicuously major share, Drake and his other shareholders each realized almost 5,000% profit on their risked capital. Enthusiastic over her Golden Hind venture, in 1600, Queen Elizabeth chartered the limited liability East India Company. This time the shareholders acquired shares in a fleet of ships, docks, and warehouses in both England and India, not shares in just one ship as in the earlier venturing. Employing her sovereign power, Elizabeth limited the losses of its chartered riskers to their initial monetary or equivalent capital stakes, while continuing their right to receive their proportional profit dividends for as long as the venturing company might exist in perpetuity. Known later in England as LTD for limited liability, in France as Société and Commandité, in Germany as Kommanditgesellschaft, and as corporation under the USA's Inc. for incorporated status, this newborn abstract legal giant was to be treated as a human personality empowered to do anything humans can do, but also accredited to operate as an abstract legal entity able to enter or leave any nation without a passport. As such, it was able to employ millions of people and any amount of money, tools, buildings, and equipment, and to perform its giant acts anywhere about the oceanic world exclusively for the profit and perpetuity only of its shareholders. When the 14th Amendment to the USA Constitution was passed in the post-Civil War railroad expansion days, the U.S. Supreme Court required that the individual states grant the corporation all the privileges and protection granted to human citizens. 100 years later, in 1980, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that a corporation had the same rights of free speech as all U.S. citizens. To allow its corporate bodies to make a colossal new grab, Grunch has ordered its pet puppets to take over the world ocean bottom resources. As of February 1982, the United States, Britain, France, and West Germany have reached preliminary agreement to bypass the stalled Law of the Sea Conference and proceed with development of seabed mineral resources. The Japanese Foreign Ministry said Japan expressed opposition to the agreement, unconfirmed by the 4 other countries, and said such a program should operate under UN auspices. The United States and other developed countries have refused to agree to developing nations' demands that seabed development be overseen by a UN agency dominated by the poorer countries. The 14th, 15th, and 16th century rulers who instituted and empowered those abstract corporate giants were able to popularize their acts by celebrating the visual wealth of goods it brought to their country and to the political satisfaction of their many citizens. The profit to society was visibly distributed as the goods, services, museums, and public place rarities the enterprising produced. The shareholders' dividend checks were invisibly distributed. With the Battle of Trafalgar in 1805, the risk capital powers backing the British Empire became the sovereigns of the seas. Until that time, the high sea venturers had carried gold and silver as their trading medium. This induced world-around high seas piracy. The behind-the-scenes masters of the British Empire then invented the annual balance of trade as a world-around bookkeeping system which kept its gold off the seas, and instead, after the year-end tallying of the trade interactions, transferred the gold from one country's London vault to another country's London vault. This withdrew the gold from the seagoing pirates' reach. However, it brought many of the pirates into the financial districts of great cities. Naturally, shareholding in LTD enterprise became increasingly attractive as an investment risk, but soon the monetary size of investment required for share participation grew beyond the acquisition means of all but the wealthy. Stock exchange brokers, for their own convenience, imposed trading only in 100-share lots or blocks, which quickly raised the equity purchasing increments to so great a price that only the very wealthy could any longer participate in such venture sharing. The capital games playing rules kept the pikers out, the original pikers being the on-foot pike-bearing castle guards. In the 19th century, The limited liability corporate venturing began not only putting its shipyard donkey engines, steam engines in ships, but also mounting them on steel wheels on rails and powering them out of the shipyards. Thus, they began railroading heavy loads inland. This initiated new mass production industry centers at inland water power sites. For instance, industrial venturing underwrote water wheel driven mass yardage cotton mill fabric production, preferably in such low wage paying countries as India. The annual balance of trade accounting brought about many obviously inequitable economic conditions, such as, for instance, India's burlap bag makers working for a penny a day. It was the vast profits made on burlap bags so produced which financed the early 20th century expansion of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in the USA. Such cotton and woolen fabric production venturing was logically followed by thread and needles, pins, buttons, and small hardware mass production moving line ventures. With the introduction of electricity and the electricity-driven motor, industry began moving line mass production of dollar watches, tin cans, safety razor blades, big city clothing production, sweatshops, then bicycles, then motor cars. In World War I, it introduced steel steamship mass production. In World War II, transoceanic aircraft mass production. And in the cold puppet nation-waged war, World War III, extraterrestrial travel and transport and mass production of invisible mass killingry potential.